Neopian lore, what we got in store. Talking about the things that we love and adore. We're all over 20, right? We stay indoors and play this game. And love this game. Sometimes hate this game. But let's all talk about Neopian lore. Yeah! Woohoo!
Welcome to episode 14 of Neopian Lore. Today, we'll be talking about the polar opposite princesses of Shenku, Terrana and Lunara. I'll try to be as accurate as possible and attempt to pronounce all names correctly, but keep in mind, this world is fictional and this is all just for fun. I'm your host, Krista Poyman. Now let's cozy up to some nostalgia. High in the mountains north of Altador is the mystical city of Shenku. Unknown to Neopians for centuries, it was revealed to the world by the crew of the Drake Gaze after a terrible mishap at sea. Its citizens were cautious at first, but have since welcomed visitors from all over Neopia with open arms, as long as they have their wallets. They are a merchant town after all. Now I know Lutari Island is the fan favorite, but Shenku is the land I'm craving to be fleshed out and updated. It's a place very much shrouded in mystery and literal mist. When Shenku was introduced in the ancient times of 2006, along came a slew of new games, such as Shenku River Rush, Kojong, Top Chop, and many others. Within the games room, we met two princesses of this land, Princess Terrana and Princess Lunara. Different species aside, these sisters have vastly different character designs and personalities, yet both have the same goal, trying to prove themselves, specifically to their father, while also seeking freedom. We have the green ogre in Terrana, very rough and tumble, brash, and is often seen scaling the cliffs of Shenku. She embodies strength and power. Then we have the blue Bunny Lunara, who is quiet, gentle, and reserved. She's very careful in what she says and does, and is often seen looking longingly out the palace windows, dreaming of escape. Their clothing also reflects their personality differences. Terrana sports earth tones with a more masculine silhouette, while Lunara wears a flowy garment with vibrant royal colors, adorned with flowers and jewels. I just love the etymology of their names. Terrana, root ter, means land. She is always trying to get as far away from the ground as possible, somehow even scaling clouds. Don't question it, it totally makes sense. For Lunara, the root is Luna, meaning moon. She is always longing to be 1,000,000 miles away from the palace, perhaps even as far as the moon. Honestly, I think what draws me to these characters is how people can have the same vulnerabilities while also having vastly different personalities. Goals don't correlate to how you present yourself. Now let's start our focus with the youngest of the sisters, Princess Terrana. She is currently training to be a warrior of Shenku, but not just any warrior. Quote, "I will be the greatest warrior Shenku has ever seen. Just you watch." Her claim to fame are her games Shenku Warrior and Shenku Warrior 2. In the first game's description, we have, in Shenku, a warrior's training isn't complete until one can race to the top of the mountain. While this steep climb may provide a scenic view, it's also great exercise for the Emperor's littlest princess, Terrana, who has hopes of becoming the greatest warrior ever. Rather than just hiking up the mountain's trail, Princess Terrana instead will climb her way to the top using only a shining grappling hook. Failing would mean forfeiting her title as Shenku Warrior, along with possibly getting hurt, but after all, one must have one's priorities in order. The game controls are simple. You use your mouse to point the grappling hook at the ledges, and you click. Once you reach the top of the mountain, you are gifted a dazzling fireworks display. The game's fairly straightforward, each level just spaces the cliffs differently. There are infinite levels and no lives, so you can literally play forever. Unless you lose internet, or your computer shuts down, or there's site maintenance, or I don't know, maybe you have to sleep or go to work. Does anyone do that? But again, no matter how long you play, the only way for it to end is to quit. Is it symbolism? Terrana never truly being able to achieve her goal? In issue 22 of the Neopian Times, there's a comic that sets up Shenku Warrior 2. We see Terrana pleading to the Emperor, "Please, Father, I know I can be a great warrior if I could just prove it." "Enough, child. I will not deny that you have potential, but you are not ready." Terrana walks away, but overhears someone talking about the Sword of the Moon to the Emperor, an item only a true warrior can retrieve from the mountain. This is her chance to prove herself. Shenku Warrior 2 is very similar to the original game, but now there are family crests to collect for extra points and the addition of power-ups. One power-up that provides a short boost is the Pet Pet Kazuryu. Aw, it seems like her sister's Pet Pet is coming to the rescue. As far as I can tell from guides and videos, this game also has no true end, so you can keep racking up points until you fall. But if we return to the comic from the magazine, we've got a conclusion to Terrana's quest. As she scales the mountain, she is confronted by a blurga, a red bull-like pet. She's not entirely sure what to do and begins to panic, but her father comes to rescue Terrana, instilling some wisdom. "Patience is an important virtue of a warrior. If you had been patient and waited, eventually the blurga would have tired of you and gone away. Cure your impulsiveness and never overestimate your own abilities. Learn this and one day you'll be a great warrior." What confuses me is the Emperor seems to nurture Terrana's love of climbing and eventual goal of becoming a warrior, but as we explore Lunara's story, it's bizarre how much he goes about trying to keep his eldest daughter as safe as possible, basically restricting her from doing anything. Is it because he knows that he can control Lunara, unlike Terrana? Is he overcompensating since he has a wild child? While Lunara doesn't want to be scaling cliffs, "Oh, I do hate it ever so much when my little sister goes mountain climbing alone. It makes me so nervous." Terrana is living the life she wants to. She is free. Though it seems the Emperor may not be fully supportive of all Terrana's dreams, with the quote, "I'm training for the Altador Cup. Oh, the odds that Papa the Emperor will let me go are about 40 zillion to 1. But I still think it's worthwhile to try. You have to be really agile and tough to compete in Yu-Yu Ball, so I'm practicing my moves." I can see the Emperor thinking the Altador Cup is not nearly as prestigious as being a warrior. Before we go into Lunara's story, I fell into a rabbit hole, bunny hole, about mountaineering. Since Shenku is primarily based on ancient China, though has some influence from other countries along the Orient, I was curious about the tallest mountain in China, known as Mount Gonga or Minyakonka, the king of the Sichuan Mountains. It's the highest mountain in the Sichuan province, with an elevation above sea level of 7,556 meters, or a little under 25,000 feet. This makes it the third highest peak in the world outside of the Himalaya range. At one point in the 1930s, its height was miscalculated and thought to be over 30,000 feet, which would have made it the tallest mountain in the world. The myth was short-lived as the National Geographic Society quickly disproved the claim. Even if it isn't the tallest mountain, it's one of the most dangerous, plagued by avalanches due to the mountain's highly unpredictable weather. It was first climbed in 1932, and until 2003, the mountain was only climbed successfully 8 times. 22 people had reached the summit, while 16 climbers did not return. That's a 42% mortality rate. Definitely not good odds. As heir to the throne of Shenku, Princess Lunara has lived a life of luxury, surrounded by riches that most Neopets can only dream of. Yet she would give it all up for the chance to leave the palace and explore Neopia, the one thing she has been forbidden. The heir must be protected at all costs, Lunara has been told many times, lest some disaster befall her, or worse, a scandal. Princess Lunara is the eldest sister, the one to become empress, and is forbidden to leave for her own protection. She is often sad and lonely, the weight of her future obligations seemingly heavy on her mind. Even her Neopedia page states she dreams of traveling around the world. It must be so hard to watch as your younger sister is out climbing cliffs while you can't even go outside. I would be stewing. Lunara's days are filled with games of Godori, lessons on law and philosophy, making flower arrangements, overseeing exams, calligraphy, lots of princessy things in preparation of being empress. Going back to issue 22 of the magazine, there is a story, A Cure for Loneliness, where Lunara is again being rightfully sad about her situation. Hinchuro, her father's advisor, acknowledges her feelings, saying, "The royal life is hard. You are never by yourself, yet you are always alone." He gifts her a beautiful rock. "May your problems disappear and your life smooth over like its surface," and advises her to care for it. Through rolled eyes, Lunara does as he says, since she has nothing better to do, and she trusts Hinchuro. After a few weeks, Lunara is awoken to a sound, learning it wasn't a rock at all, but rather an egg. Just then, with a loud crack, the egg broke cleanly in half, and a snout peeked out. A pair of curious eyes and a long, lithe body soon followed. With a crackling of magic flame, the creature emerged entirely and nuzzled the Psy Bunny affectionately, as if they had been friends forever. The princess somehow knew her lonely days would be over. The creature was none other than a Kazuryu, a pet based off of various Eastern dragons. The Kazuryu's description states, "Rumored to only appear to those who believe in them, these magical creatures are very clever." It seems this little guy came right when Lunara needed him. She named him Umbra, a term to mean the darkest part of a shadow, usually in reference to the Earth or Moon experiencing the total phase of an eclipse, an adorable nod to the moon part of Lunara's name. But Umbra was only a temporary distraction, as the princess once again became restless. Not long ago, though, Lunara could bear the captivity no more. Why could Princess Terrana risk herself in reckless climbing, yet Lunara could not even go outside? She went to her father and demanded her freedom, but the emperor would not relent. Like they said in the article, her sister can literally scale a mountain, yet she can't go to the marketplace or a local garden or something? Definitely some double standards here. So Terrana tells her sister, "You should just pretend to be kidnapped." And being so fed up, Lunara decides to be a little reckless. Immediately, the Emperor organized the search for her in the game The Search for Princess Lunara. The Emperor has ordered all the bridges that lead to Shenku's docks be secured to prevent the kidnapper from escaping with the princess, and the palace guards are scrambling to close them off. How her father did not see this coming is beyond me. She literally just had a conversation with him about wanting to only go outside. Of course she was going to mysteriously disappear. In the game, you have to answer questions in the following categories: all about Neopia, Neopian culture, and notable Neopians. If you fail to answer a question correctly, you are to be sent to jail unless you can bribe the guard. If it's that easy to bribe them, though, Shenku definitely needs to investigate the corruption in their legal system. You finally find Lunara, and she explains that she was feeling lonely, and that's why she made it look like she was kidnapped. "So you see, father, it was just a silly game. I should have known better." But at this point, there's no self-reflection from the Emperor about why she did what she did. At least he didn't reprimand her for supposedly creating a scandal, but that's not saying much. Soon after her safe return, Lunara made a startling discovery. She was playing another game of hide-and-seek with her sisters when she found a passage underneath the palace which led deep into the mountain. Lying forgotten on the floor of the passage was a blue stone amulet engraved with the words, "Eavesdroppers seldom hear good of themselves." Putting on the amulet, Lunara found that she could hear conversations from far away as though they were right next to her. Today, Princess Lunara spends her days calmly at home in the Imperial Palace, practicing her calligraphy and inviting honored scholars and storytellers to tell her of the outside world. The princess is frequently seen wearing a beautiful lapis amulet. She is always patient now, and her father, the Emperor, has never guessed why. First of all, I want to point out that the Neopedia page states sisters, so supposedly there's at least one other princess we don't know about. But I love that Lunara has her own little secret now, her act of rebellion. Though that amulet would be a fantastic tool for surveillance on other Neopian lands. If she can somehow control where or who she hears, Shenku would be at a huge advantage in trade, learning all sorts of political secrets, knowing about potential war breaking out. That's a lot of power for a young Saibunny. That could potentially be detrimental if in the wrong hands. In 2014, we finally do see Lunara out of Shenku, all the way in Sekhmet for the event Desert Diplomacy, in which 5 rulers from across Neopia were invited to the Lost Desert by Princess Amira to discuss trade routes and foreign policy. TNT had this to say about Lunara taking the Emperor's place. After quite a bit of pestering from her sister, Princess Terrana, Lunara's aging father had finally relented some and allowed his daughter to travel abroad, with many guards, to practice her diplomacy skills. Though he wishes to protect her, he knows that one day she will need to take his place and become Empress of Shenku. Yay, some personal growth from the Emperor! Unfortunately, thieves infiltrated the palace and stole a valuable item from each ruler. For Lunara, her magical blue amulet. You know, the super powerful one we just talked about. Yikes! Players collected clues to solve the mystery, and everything went back to normal. So I need some reconciliation for this family, like we saw with King Kelpbeard and his daughters. I want to see the Emperor owning up and recognizing his mistakes, even if he did have good intentions. I hate how he treats them so differently, nurturing Terrana's passion, yet completely ignoring Lunara's until the Desert Diplomacy. It's also not even clear if Lunara even wants to be a ruler. As we've never seen their mom, maybe there's some tragic backstory causing the Emperor to be so protective of Lunara because she reminds him of her or something. I don't know. I just feel like there's got to be some reason he acts this way. Also, I want to know about their little sister or sisters. We have one mention of it, and that's it. They're royalty. We should know something. Ugh, so many questions. If only one could answer them via a Shenku plot? Ugh, a girl can dream. Well, that's all for this episode of Neopian Lore. All characters and licensing belong to Neopets.com. Music was created by me, Krista. Today's composition is called Cloud Gazing in Shenku. I hope you have a lovely day in Neopia.